The map, she is the land wilderness, and if you watched the stream a little bit ago, you know that I miserably, horribly failed to play this map because it is a little bit of a difficult one to get started on. We got Mazer Noob in the, or not Mazer Noob, Mates Noob on the north side as Cybrin with a 2-land factory, then an air factory opening, and as was pointed out to me just a minute ago in chat, he is top 10 in ladder with an above 2,000 rank on ladder. Not on global. Blast Chilled at 1900 rank on ladder. So if ever we were to see a build from a professional that would let us know how to play this map without falling flat on our faces after tripping over our own untied shoelaces, this is the game for it. Blast Chilled going second air. Let me actually take a look-see. Mates Noob might be going second air as well. No, it is definitely third air. He's got a second land factory in place with a very minimalistic power build, probably because he's gonna shoot an engineer out the back end, manually reclaim a couple of trees and rocks, and then go snag the hydro. Speaking of reclaim, let's take a look at the map. There is a pretty even distribution of reclaim all around. Of note are the large rocks over here, a large rock on each outside edge worth 300, and then a few little things next to the expansions on the left and right sides, along with a pebble there. And you can see some of the manual reclaim orders going out. Blast Chilled heavily reclaiming with his left side engineer. That appears to be the only job outside of a couple mass extractors that one is due for. We've got a land scout moving up, engineer snagging the reclaim, and who needs protection when you got a fast click on the reclaim order? There goes that hunter, perfect denial. What's not perfect denial, though, is Mates Noob's other hunter in the back end, which might be able to pick up a kill on the Hydro Engineer. This one's going to be a little bit more touch and go, harassing the NG from range until it is dead. So an Aurora is going to have to come to the back to deal with that. Blast Chill building the air factory with his ACU as a second land factory is about to come online for Mates Noob. And he's got his engineers hither and yon out expanding as much as he possibly can with those losses that he's taken. So as this plays out, it's going to be a little bit difficult for Blast Chilled, I feel. On one hand, he has an advantage because he's got free movement over the entire map with his wonderful, lovely hovering Auroras. However, with that double land factory opening, Mates Noob is going to have a few more Mantis out in the early portion of the game. If Blast Chilled can get out a first bomber, though, he won't have any intel, and he's pausing his air factory for lack of power. Ick. Oh no! Another NG down and no radar. That hunter, 2 kills, got a veterancy, eliminated 2 different expansioneers. It looks like we got land scouts going out forward now to pin that son of a gun down, and now it is dead. Blast Chill does not have any intel, so he's going to go Interceptor first. If he had gone Bomber first and not stalled it out, he might have been able to make a huge difference. But his build was planned around having this Hydro in hand. So Mates Noob was able to very effectively shut down Blast Chill's plans. Blast Chilled is ahead now though, 17 mass per tick thanks to the heavy expansions versus 11 mass per tick for Mates Noob, but Mates Noob is going to shave off a little bit of that with a couple of Mantis on the front line. 2 Auroras going down, a couple of things dying in the mix. That front push is not going to be super effective. And then ACU moving out to the right, gonna try to pick up this Mantis that is coming along. Well, that was a very interesting early engagement, and it leads to the question of whether the early rating is worth it. And I think in this case it most definitely was, because Blast Chilled could have potentially had an unovercomable air advantage. That is definitely not English, but I'm gonna roll with it. Could have had a huge air advantage if that Hydro had not gotten shut down. And the Eco is now about the same with slightly superior mass control on Mates Noob's side. So in this particular case, the harassment was just enough that it was able to make the difference. Mantis trying to get in a dodge here or there. Auroras are going to have to retreat, but they will pick up both Mantis with I think only a single Aurora or Land Scout lost. I'm not sure which it was. right there. Manta's moving in on the left side Nexus to try and erase some of that eco advantage that Blast Shield had as Blast reacts with a couple of Auroras moving in that direction. And now the ACU is going to clear to this side and get those Mass Extractors in hand. So Blast Shield's still securing expansions more quickly than Mates, but Mates having enough units to raid them and kill off the advantages. Back and forth she goes. This is what two very exceptionally evenly matched players look like. We got a T1 bomber out. Hopefully the interceptor can pick that up. A bit of micro to spoof the drop, and 3 interceptors to the front to kill it. Of course, as we've discussed several times already today, yeah, that's why you don't want the bombers on your Aeon units. Poor little guys don't have much HP. They die in one pass to a direct hit from a bomber. Of course, since they do have AoE and it's split apart, there is a possibility that you're on the edge of the napalm and you do not die. That's going to be an air win for Blast Shield. 4 interceptors versus 2. 4 interceptors versus 2 still, but now it's 1. Might lose an inti there, but it's okay because he's still ahead. And a T1 bomber moving out to the right. Every single unit has to be used to its maximum effect in a game like this. You'll notice that a lot of lower ranked players, myself included, tend to deal with massive clumps where you group up 10, 15, 20, 50 units at a time and you just kind of move them across the map in great hordes. Whereas on this, we've got 3 units, 2 units, 2 units, little clumps here and there working together to exert force over the map as you hope to strangle out your opponent for those couple of little expansions that'll give you the upper hand. Blast Shield on 31 mass per tick with 400 power, which is going to place him on top of both sides of the economy tree. I was looking at the Jesters here, which could potentially be a little dangerous, but then I realized that there's a pretty good amount of interceptors out now for Blast Shield. On the other hand, Mate's Noob appears to have an even number. The turn is not going to favor him though. A little bit of micro is going to put Blast Shield ahead. We've got, nope, he was able to pull in enough. So there's an air win for Mate's Noob. He's got 2 air factories rocking and a rolling. 2 air factories for Blast Shield as well, but this one has some assistance and this one has heavy assistance. That's effectively 3.5 air factories versus 2. And now there's 3 Jesters online with overwhelming air control. So this could turn very bad for Blast Shield if he's not able to get a handle on this situation. ACU gonna try to move towards the water a little bit as those Jesters force him away. Was gonna try to get that factory down as well to secure that expansion, but it is not gonna happen. Gonna try to save as much HP on the ACU as possible in order to deny pushes later on. On the north side, Blast Shield picking up the mexes over there. We've got Auroras moving over the center of the pond. Again, the strength of the Aeon at the T1 phase. You don't have to run around the pond to the north or the south. You just go straight across and everything is fine. We got Jesters moving in now on the T1 forces, but there are 2 mobile anti-airs in place. Unfortunately, between the damage and HP of the Jesters and the lack of HP on the Aeon T1 anti-air, those are going to get eliminated without dropping a single Jester, and now those Jesters are free to knock down all of these Auroras. You will notice that there is a lot of blue on the map and not much red. Mate's Noob has sacrificed some of his land production to get those Jesters out. Jesters are quite costly on the mass side of things. However, he does still have a reasonably good amount of build power in land. He does have enough units to defend his base, I think, and anytime this ACU gets too adventurous, he has the air to leverage. Blast Shield has not been sitting idle though. He's going to knock down those Jesters and then lose air once again. He was able to build enough inties to get rid of the air threat, but not to get rid of air entirely. So he's free to wander the plains once again with that commander, making this pretty dangerous for Mate's Noob. We've got Auroras moving in on the left side of the base. Of course, the Mantas are not going to be able to go in the water, so the Auroras are free to kite from the edge and eliminate those Mantis at will. Mantis unable to run them down. Bomber might make a difference there, though. We've got the ACU out in the front, greater than 50-50 map control on Blast Chilled's side. He's got roughly a 10 mass advantage in income, and he's been able to secure almost everything wholesale. Is that navigable? No, there's water right there. Okay, so units can't run around the back side of the pond. They can run over this side, but a single Mantis is not going to do much good versus an entire horde of Auroras. That was 4 Auroras killed in one pass on that T1 bomber. Absolute devastation. Looks like we've got a single Mantis versus a single Aurora thanks to an intel heads up. Aurora is going to win out. Another air engagement, which is going to favor Mate Snoob once again. Good little turn, passing back through. Anti-air on the ground is going to... It's going to do a little damage, but it's not going to be enough to make the overall difference. Aurora's still trying to get in the left side of the base. At some point, they are going to break this down. You'll notice the T1 point events being built on both sides here. Since Artie cannot cross the water, the artillery is going to have to come through the front to kill this point event, and that gives the Mantis a chance to kill it. Although it would appear by how these are congregating that the artillery are on the same move order as the Auroras. Oh, that is nasty. I made the comment a moment ago about the movement of units around the south side of the pond. Auroras can totally do that. They're going to skirt all the way around the edge and move to the rear for the air production. Blast Chilled getting a couple more mass extractors down as Mate Snoob is forced back into the water on the right side of the map, thanks to all of those Auroras that are in place. Jester was able to pick off a little bit of an expansion there, but once again, Mate Snoob is having to fight air after his Jester is killed. Beautiful turn by Blast Chilled, and a bit of miss micro on Mate Snoob's side might be the turning point. That's a win in air for Blast Chilled. But it looks like his land game might be in danger now. The production on land has scaled up slightly. There's no longer so much assistance on the air factories, thanks to Mate Noob being a little overconfident in his control of the air game. We've got a single land factory online in the south expansion, which should be able to hold relatively well versus a mix with only 2 T1 artillery, and Mantis are pressuring the front end. Mate Snoob is now at 29 mass per tick versus 25 for Blast Chilled, thanks to a good amount of rating. But again, this is going to clean up those extra mass extractors, knocking Mate Snoob down a peg to 23 versus 25. Still anybody's game. It's amazing to me that people can swap places so many times on a map this small and still no one have a distinct advantage. We've got an airlock in the back, but here we see Mate Snoob sacrificing about a third of his HP to try to reclaim this point event before getting forced out with 169 HP remaining by a horde of Auroras showing up and Blast Chilled's ACU moving in from the north. 2,700 HP. He needs to get in the water. Yowzers, 1,900 on the health bar by the time he makes it in. I think that is going to be bad news for him because he's not going to be able to use his ACU as an offensive tool for quite some time, and now he's going to have to exert all of his control with Mantis, of which there are not enough. We have a few moving from the south, not enough to get by the ACU. We have some out and about on the left, which could... that's taken out a couple of expansion mexes, and it might deal damage to this, but they will eventually die to the T1 bombers on that side, not to mention the fact that there's a group of Auroras waiting in the base for them to come through. And then on the right, we've got Auroras moving closer to the base. However, those T1 point events are going to be able to secure the main core, and I don't think they're going to be able to make it in. Mate Snoob on 23 versus Blast Chilled at 23 mass. Let's take a look at the reclaim for a moment. 26 versus 45 on Mate Snoob's side. That pretty much negates the minor amount of mass that either player might have an advantage with. Blast Chilled tearing into these Mantis now. He needs to reverse course, or that's going to be a run by. Yup, a couple of those Mantis are going to get through. Mantis on the left Gonna succeed in killing off a couple engineers, maybe a P-Gen or two, moving to the rear to kill the build power and power that's in the back. So much going on, shifting and turning around the map as each player struggles to get the upper hand, but it seems like as fast as one player can rebuild and gain an advantage, the other has secured the other expansions. This is a game changer though. We've got a T2 land factory online, a mobile flak, the first unit produced. That's going to shred out a pretty good number of interceptors as those retreat. And then with Blast Shield taking hits to the rear of the base, this could be a game changer for the way this moves forward. I don't know if they'll be able to make enough of a difference though, because we do have a 240 power advantage towards Blast Shield. Blast Shield going for bombers. He still does have more than enough interceptors to exert air control. It looks like Mates Noob is sacrificing his air game for mobile flak, so he's going to put his faith in that, and he started to build hoplites to deal with the Auroras that are pestering him from all sides. May the micro be with him, because otherwise that is not going to work out too well for him. We've got more mass extractors on the left that gave Mates Noob a very short-lived advantage, but those are going to get knocked out by a handful of Auroras from Blast Shield. And seeing the way the map is distributed right now, it looks like we've still got roughly 50-50 map control to each side, but you'll notice that Blast Shield has got all of his mexes built except for what he's killing right now, whereas Mates Noob has not been able to get engineers out of his base to kill these two, to build these two pairs. Compounding the problem is Blast Shield moving into the south side expansion, and with that, I think Blast Shield is going to clinch the game. Unless a miracle happens with these hoplites moving out and the T2 factories coming online in mass, I don't think that Mates Noob is going to be able to come back from this. Looking at the south side, still no T2 mass extractors, as we would expect on a map of this size with tolerances this tight. That means that Blast Shield, you can strictly count the number of T1 mass extractors, and he is going to be far ahead. 31 mass per tick versus 17, very nearly a 2-to-1 advantage. His only disadvantage being the hoplites. Hoplites killing off a couple of engineers there. Might get a mass extractor kill, but they need to focus on the Auroras. Auroras moving in on the front line as well, harassed by a couple of hops that are trying to kite things out. You gotta keep them away, because right now they've got 550 HP per bot, which Auroras can kill very, very quickly. Badly timed air engagement for Mates Noob. I'm not sure what he was thinking, unless he overcommitted accidentally and then had to go through with it because it was too late, or perhaps his interceptors got pulled in by a too closely placed move or patrol order. Whatever the case may be, air control is once again even more firmly in the hands of Blast Shield as hoplites trying to deal damage on the north side. It is simply not going to be enough though. We got bombers cleaning up the mess. We've got Auroras able to deny. The rocket bot is outmatched for sure. And then on the south side, we've got an ACU building up a land factory to try to get a little more build power to his name. I see a 15 on the mark. That is 37 for Blast Shield, 15 for Mates Noob, well on the way to tripling his opponent's eco. That is bad news indeed, especially if this one gets secured. At this point, I think we're watching the slow final collapse. Let me bump up a couple of sim speed. Like I said, unless something drastic happens, Blast Shield has slowly but surely gained control of enough of the map to force out Mates Noob. Bombers. So many bombers. Mates Noob, are you actually going to do anything? You're going for a T2 support factory, so something's going on down there. A little bit of a dodge, trying to get out of the way of those bombers. I'm going to bump back down the sim speed since we're starting to hitch. Hoplites are going to survive, at least most of them are. And the mobile flak coming out from the back is going to be able to clean up the bombers. However, with the amount of Auroras moving in, I think all Blast Shield needs to do at this point is place an attack move order directly into the base. Well, I don't know. There's quite a few hoplites, but I think the hoplites made a drastic misstep. They moved to skirt the southern troops and ran directly into the northern troops. So hoplites down all over the place. Those are funky looking bots. They really are. They have 5 legs and they kind of just randomly walk around. They can walk sideways, backwards, and frontways, which is just weird. Very weird. Okay, ACU getting another land factory up that is also upgrading. How do you have the mass for this? 19 mass per tick, which is actually positive. He's surviving mostly on reclaim at the moment and barely has enough power. I think he might be going for a surprise move where he tries to get enough of a T2 force up on the south side to be able to ram through one of these edges. However, we now have torpedo bombers out, which are going to sight that commander. We've got scouts on the land factories now, so that is not going to work. And now Blast Shield can move all of his units in to surround that commander. Torpedo bombers on it in the water, land units on it when it's above the surface, and that is going to clinch a win. We've now got rhinos moving out, actually getting the mainline T2 tanks in order. He is trying to regain map control. Blast Shield moving up to the front line. He doesn't have any upgrades, but he can overcharge. So when those rhinos get into his reach, they are done for. We got a couple of rhinos out along with a mobile flak on the south side. Between the rhino and the ACU, we'll be able to defend against those auroras. Flak takes out the torps. The ACU is safe once again. Although the torps are towards the rear, they're not going to sacrifice themselves needlessly. That was a beautiful save by Matesnoob. He might not be out of this yet. We got 27 mass per tick on the dial. He is securing his expansions once again, moving back into the water as that torp takes flak fire. Other torp is on the other side. You just don't want to take too much fire, because if you do, you're gonna get screwed. Looks like we got T2 gunships out harassing for Blast Shield, taking out a couple of those critical mass extractors that are barely keeping mates afloat. I want to take a look at the reclaim. Matesnoob at 9,000, Blast Shield at 9,000. No more triple eco advantage, it's down to double. And there is a disadvantage to be had when Cybern has T2 and Aeon does not. With the flak, there's a limited amount that the air is going to be able to do. However, flak can only be in so many places at once. So if those gunships keep being built, and if they're able to get around the edges and just contain the mess that is Matesnoob, we might still see something happening. We've got a couple of tanks. That would be a Rhino and a Wagner. Aurora's moving to the south side, trying to kill off this extra build power, and we do have... Was that a drop? I don't think it was a drop. I think those were moved over there, killing off Mex's engineers, maybe even a Hydro on that side. Rhino, you gotta use your factories as a meat shield, because otherwise you're not gonna make it. We got another Rhino out, or another Wagner rather, and another almost, there it is. 2 T2 tanks out. Looks like Wagner's from one, Rhino's from the other. Should be able to make ground versus the paltry number of Auroras on this side. Well, they would if you put both tanks in the same spot, but for now, that is just going to be out there. Really? Really now? Matesnoob didn't even get his reclaim rock. That's incredible. And there goes the GG. So, what happened? Blast Shield was able to get onto the front line, overcharged a couple of T2 units that were in the way, and is now moving into the base with a double gun comm and a vast horde of T1. I've got to give props to Matesnoob on that one. That is the longest, most viable holdout I've ever seen versus certain death. And he almost brought it back. Like, the gun comm clinched it. This particular map, it's difficult because Cybern, obviously, you're amphibious, but you go under the water, or you have to stay on land. And since there's 3 choke points, the gun comm can kind of shut down the T2 phase. And he did a fantastic job of recovering his base. He didn't lose out on all of his stuff. He got flak up to deny the air advantage, and he was even moving out to recover portions of the map. But in the end, Blastchild was able to exert enough control with that gun comm and had enough T1 units to be able to lock the entire thing down. Well played from both of these guys. Swung both ways a couple of times, but in the end, Blastchild is the better player. That is gonna wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.